Emotions in narrative fiction, interactive influences before, during, and after reading.
Emotions are central to the experience of reading literary fiction, not just during reading, but also before and after reading. So, in order to prove the veracity of the theories to be mentioned, we carried out several interviews to teachers and students of the English training course at University of La Pampa.
According to the authors of this paper, mood or emotional state plays a crucial role in the selection of what to read. It seems that how you feel before you even engage with a story is likely to bias your choice. Now, there are two aspects to highlight when reading literary fiction. These are reader's control and emotional consequences. In literary fiction, events are presented symbolically through language, so readers have more control over emotional distances than viewers, for example. Another aspect of reading that adds to this emotional control is our ability as readers to control the pace of literary narratives. While we read, we may go back to earlier part of the text, reread portions, or make as many pauses as we want. Besides, reading typically takes place over a longer temporal span than watching. Therefore, literary fiction has greater emotional consequences than media with shorter duration of engagements.
According to the interviewees, emotions before reading do not play a major role when selecting a piece of narrative. Most of them agree in that they choose literature based on their interests and tastes, independently of their emotional state.
In the same way emotions may influence us when selecting a piece of literature, they also affect us during reading. When we read a piece of non-fiction, we want to be informed, but when we read a novel, a short story, or a poem, we want to be moved. In other words, when entering the narrative world of a story, a set of emotions known as narrative emotions are evoked. One of these emotions is sympathy. Sympathy is a feeling of pity or sense of compassion. It is when you feel bad for someone else who's going through something hard. This is to say, an expression of understanding and care for someone else's suffering. Sympathy leads to a relation of affinity or harmony between people. Whatever affects one correspondingly affects the other. When reading a piece of literary fiction, we might feel bad for a character whose goals are not being met or is going through a difficult situation. So, the reader feels sympathetically for a character. For example, imagine you see a car accident. You are simultaneously fascinated and sympathetic for the occupants of the car because of their bad luck. You don't, however, feel as you would if you were in the car, and you don't feel as you would if someone close to you were in the car.
Empathy is having an emotion that is somewhat like the emotion experienced by the target person or character. It can easily be applied to fictional characters created through our imagination in interaction with a narrative. While reading a piece of fiction, we separate from our immediate world and we suspend our own goals, plans, and actions to empathize and identify with fictional characters. In empathy, we understand the character's goal through our model of his or her mind and feel something similar to what the character feels.
Emotions of identification. When we identify with a character, we imagine ourselves to be in his or her position. We take on the character's goals and plans as our own, and see ourselves as the character feeling what he or she feels. When readers make inferences about a character, identification is even stronger. Relived emotions. Emotions can also be evoked by the recollection of personal experience. When we experience emotions in a piece of fiction, we are reliving emotions from our own past, and this allows us the possibility of assimilating these emotions more fully. Narrative fiction, then, enables us to relive and therefore to assimilate emotions from our own past.
Every time we read a new work of literature, we bring a wide range of remembered emotional experiences that are not limited to a recollection of personally experienced events. These emotions we experience in new contexts add to our understanding of the range of emotional experience.
The relationship between these 5 types of emotions and their interrelation is considered in the light of 2 major motivations: enjoyment and appreciation. The first fresh emotions derive from one's inferences and understanding of story characters that would appear best mated to an enjoyment motivation, drawing our own minds into the world of narrative and the minds of its characters. It is likely to result in a pleasurable loss of self, linked to. In contrast, relived and remembered emotions seem most likely to spur introspection, reflection, and personal insight, and appear best suited for appreciation motivations.
When emotions are evoked during reading, they are likely to have an immediate influence on the reading process. It may happen, for example, that if the emotions evoked are not what you desire, you may just stop reading. According to the interviewees, the emotions elicited during reading do seem to have an impact on their mood. Most of them express that they could identify and feel empathetic towards the characters and the situations they went through. Moreover, through the act of reading, they were able to bring back personal experiences, which helped them to later on reflect upon their own lives.
Effects on personality. The emotions evoked by reading a novel or short story can influence personal transformation. Emotion, therefore, is central to the experience of change in the ways in which readers view themselves, this is to say, in their personality. Feelings experienced while reading literature may have a transformative or self-modifying effect. These changes may not result in long-lasting changes. The longer-lasting changes, perhaps, occur mainly for readers engaged in deeply experienced readings of text. Writing about emotionally significant events in one's life can produce therapeutic changes.
As regards of narrative fiction after reading, some interviewees claim that besides fostering inner reflection, reading helped them to become more sympathetic and empathic towards other people's feelings. Since we believe that imposed reading is likely to evoke negative emotions in students, we believe that it may be a good idea to create a method that provides our students with options as regards the narrative fiction used during the classes. Creating a sense of freedom among children would help them feel better as regards the literature provided by the teacher, resulting in more positive emotions.
We can also say that narrative fiction helps us develop our imagination and creativity, which we think are important values regardless of our age. Now that we've learned that emotions do have an impact during and after reading, we believe students should be provided with significant literature they can somehow relate to. This would enable them to not only learn while reading, but also to reflect about their lives and other people's lives, thus becoming more empathetic human beings.
Taking into consideration this paper and the interviews carried out, we believe that narrative fiction and emotions go hand by hand and cannot be separated. Reading is crucial for developing empathy and sympathy in any stage of our life. We believe that teachers should be more aware of the impact of literature. The act of reading and the emotions triggered by it should be part of our teaching, since they have been proved to have meaningful effects on students, since it helps them grow emotionally and intellectually.